Yeah, right. So what's going on is actually I'm very fortunate to have a pregnancy right now, a viable pregnancy, right, which is very great. Really, really happy about that. So, the whole point of this video is like, don't tell me for a minute that the baby was not a baby prior to the implantation, right? That's a whole bunch of nutty nonsense, right? No, well, I think we're mature enough to say that it's, not some, fetus is not a human or something like that. I think those arguments are just nonsense and folly. The baby's a parasite. I heard some people talking about that too. Same, old tired arguments that don't make any sense, but people still go there. Right? I don't know why, because it's clearly um, just gibberish, right? It's just nonsense, just an excuse to dehumanize this baby. But the real dehumanization happens, right? And there's so many more deaths that happen, and people just, for some reason, they don't accept it. Um, at the prior to the implantation stage. So just because of the age of development of this baby. Anyway, so my baby right now, as we speak, as I'm making this video here, is 19 days. 19 days. So what happens when my grandmother actually died? And I was distraught, man. I was absolutely distraught. My grandmother was very, very wonderful to me. I, really had a great, lady for a grandmother. She was really, really the best grandmother that anybody could ever ask for. Um, so, uh, So then she died, right? She was old, 97 years old. I was very upset. I was crying and crying and crying and everything. I couldn't, stop crying. And my kids were like, "Well, why are you crying?" and everything. And, so I mean, it was a terrible time. Losing my grandmother was not something that I don't even believe I can. I don't even accept. I don't believe I fully accepted it as being true. But that was the day that that was dreading for years. I was like, oh, I can't believe my grandmother's gonna die someday. And I was like, anyway, I don't believe it's actually true. But I seen her, in the casket and everything. So she is actually passed away, which is very sad. Man, my grandmother was so great, wonderful grandmother. But so anyway, she died, right? So then all of a sudden, boom, I get a pregnancy. What? This is great. I love this new baby. This new baby's, means everything to me, right? So it's kind of like the replacement of my grandmother. So 50% chance it's gonna be, she's gonna be a girl. I don't know. It could be a girl. It could be a boy. I don't really care as long as my grandmother is replaced, because I can't not deal with a loss of a family member. Like, that's terrible. I can't do that. But anyway, the unchanging identity is what's actually going on. So let's get into the slides here. So the unchanging identity. My baby at 19 days has the same DNA, the same humanity, and all as on the very first day of conception. Implantation doesn't make a baby become human. He or she is, already is human. Right? Implantation is geography, not ontology. Implantation is just about where the baby attaches to continue development. It doesn't change who the baby is. It only changes where he or she is located. And there's the the embryo, the zygote, the blastocyst, the embryo, the developing human. That's all this is. This baby is a developing human, right? So there are names for the stages of development. Let's continue on. We got fetus, we have baby, we have infant, we have teenager, right? These words for a developing human. We have adolescent, a young adult, right? Adult, middle-aged person, right? These are all stages of a developing human. An elderly person, right? So and a senior citizen, if you will, right? Yeah, science is clear, right? So scientifically speaking, it is clear. At fertilization, a unique human life begins, a boy or girl, with his or her own distinct genetic code. Right. From that moment onwards, every stage is simply growth and development. From that, very, very beautiful. I talked about that in my other video, where the oocyte actually selects the best possible sperm to you know to become a human being, right? I've talked about that. You can check that out in the video about the beautiful young lady sitting at the bar, right? You got all the potential boyfriends crying for her attention, hey, and all that stuff. You can check that my other videos, a beautiful lady sitting at the bar, which is reminiscent to the oocyte actually selecting the sperm. But we'll get a little bit more into that. I think if we have some time in this channel, we'll get into that very, very beautiful process in greater detail. Embryology, that is. So moral clarity. To say that a baby is only real after implantation is a word game used to justify killing. 100%, yeah. It is. It's a word game used to justify killing, but word games don't change reality. A child exists before, during, and after implantation, right? So the whole point about this is the birth control pills prevent the implantation, therefore causes early abortion. But nobody can accept that, because accepting that idea would have to mean a greater level of maturity that they are not able to attain. So a personal witness. Right now, my baby is at 19 days old. Yay! Oh, that's wonderful. Oh man, this is great. Don't dare tell me that if he or she had not yet implanted, or would have been prevented to have implanted from these chemical drugs, that wouldn't have been the same baby, right? That's my child. Um, and every child deserves recognition and protection, right? So, as you can see here, I'm very, very proud dad of this new baby. I'm very, very proud father. So, I got my wife a whole bunch of chocolate and the non-alcoholic champagne and everything to celebrate, because man, this is great. This is a wonderful thing. This is the this is the most valuable asset on the earth, right? I was thinking about buying myself a boat. I was thinking about going fishing because I had to feed my kids, man. I was thinking about going fishing. So that's an asset. That asset it pales in comparison to what a baby actually. That is the value of this asset, right? To me, as a father, right? This is the greatest. It's like winning 1,000 jackpots. The lottery 1,000 times for 1,000 days, every day for 1,000 days. Winning the lottery. That's how good this is. This is the best news in the whole world. And I gotta admit, I was haranguing my wife. Can we have another baby? Can we not have another baby? Can we have another baby? And she was like, "Oh, next year, next year." I gotta give it to my wife, man. She was so so strong. I love my wife. Oh, she's great. So I had a whole bunch of babies already, and then now this one here. Oh, what a great thing! What a wonderful thing. Women that give childbirth should be praised, right? She was truly, truly should be praised. Anyway, so the whole point about this is that the birth control pills should be outlawed 100%. In this country where I am, I'm not in Canada anymore, because that's just nutty, 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 nutty. It's a whole bunch of it's basically Nutville, Nutville. Canada is basically Nutville. Reference to Buddy Rich, Nutville, their 1970 74 album or something like that. Nutville, right? So what is Nutville? It's Canada, right? Everybody's nutty, right? They're not mature enough to have that discussion. You say that on the social media. You say, hey, look, this birth control pill doesn't actually prevent pregnancy. Yes, it does. It absolutely does. And I'm like, if I show you evidence beyond any doubt at all that it doesn't, would you concede to your error, that you concede to the fact that you have erred, right? That's the number one thing that I look for, is for somebody to correct me and say, hey, and if somebody were to say to me, listen, I'll show you 100% evidence beyond any doubt at all that you have erred, I will concede to the fact that I have erred, and I will 100% immediately change what I'm saying, because that's the only thing I don't want any kind of error in what I'm saying. Because what kind of fool, clings to his nonsense? What kind of fool clings to his nonsense? Right. Well, I'll tell you which one. A whole bunch of them. A whole bunch of people from Nutville, right? Canada's Nutville. So that's a good song, by the way. Buddy Rich there on the drums. But no, what I'm saying is that in this country where I am, the babies are constitutionally protected from conception, right? The babies are is because I moved to a country where there's no abortion. There's no abortion in this country here. It's outlawed. You will go to prison if you have any kind of abortion. But unfortunately, you still have this pill, because the people are not not being mature enough to have the discussion and all the stuff, which is coming, it will come. A society must um, not be clinging to the error, right? So, but anyway, yeah, I'm gonna have a baby, so I'm just celebrating here today. I got some chocolate and what else do I got? Durian, very nice durian fruit. I'll see you. Take care. Bye bye.